Terzo intervento, David Corfmat, che è manager della Sunbrella. Nasce in Dixon David Corfmat, ma poi se lo sono presi gli americani e l'hanno portato. Quindi è una visione anche quella, è inutile che racconti, poi lo racconta adesso cos'è Sunbrella, quindi una visione interessante secondo me, per l'amor di Dio. Noi sappiamo bene la nostra realtà italiana, il leader di mercato che io rispetto, lo sapete tantissimo, la famiglia Paravicini, ho una grande ammirazione per loro. Chiaramente, come in tutte le aziende, la visione di Sunbrella è una visione ancora diversa e penso che anche quello che David ci vorrà dire potremo portare a casa qualcosina. David, nonostante le mie pressioni, non ha voluto farla in italiano, la presentazione è in italiano, però ve la fa in inglese. Quindi se poi avete domande, in realtà è italiano, poi qui c'è anche Angelo Battista, quindi nessun problema a usare lui, però è in italiano quello che c'è scritto, la sua esposizione, il suo speech è in inglese, giusto David?
Sì, giusto. Buongiorno a tutti. Mi nome è David Corfmat, io sono il direttore commerciale internazionale per la Glenraven, compagnia americana che è Dixon familiare, gruppo familiare, 100% familiare. Grazie Carlo per il suo invito all'evento. Siamo molto orgogliosi di fare parte dell'evento. L'italiano mio è malo. Non lo parlo bene, lo capisco abbastanza, però non lo parlo bene. Io preferisco seguire in inglese, lo sento, però tutta la presentazione è fatta in italiano. E Carlo mi ha detto che può traducere se quello falta, no?
Se serve qualsiasi cosa, domanda che non capite, magari alzate la mano e insieme aiutiamo alle cose.
Ok. Okay. Few figures, key figures about the Glenraven Group. I will not go very much in detail as Giuseppe did. Just for you to better understand who we are. So the Dixon was founded in 1836, so not so far from Sauleda. Glenraven was founded in 1880, and I can tell you that for a US company to be founded in 1880 is a record. You know, most US companies are very young. This one is a very, very old family-owned company. Il marchio Sunbrella, la marca, the brand, Sunbrella was created in 1961 and introduced in the market. In 1969, Dixon, the family Constant, acquired Dixon in France and created the Dixon Constant Group at that time. 1998, Glenraven acquired Dixon in Europe, and so made this group as the world leader for solution for fabric, for outdoor fabric. 2006, we have set up a plant in China to supply the Chinese market and the Asian market in general. In 2019, the new headquarters was made in the US, and very recently, 2022, in France, in the northern part of France, where the Dixon headquarters is, we have set up a brand new facility plant, production plant, as well as logistic warehouse. Few figures about the group. So about 3,500 people working into the group. 82% of our revenue are made abroad. Two brand leaders, Dixon and Sunbrella. As for Europe, there's about 500 people working in France and Europe in general, and 14 different offices around Europe and the world, and 9 production sites. The four markets we are active in are the protection solar market, which is the number one, obviously. Then the marine market, fabric dedicated to marine application. Then the outdoor environment, so umbrella, furniture, outdoor furniture, and indoor more and more. And the very last one is the woven flooring application, which is brand new in our business. This is a snapshot of the new plant we have built in France. We have invested 70 million euros last 2 years in the middle of the pandemic to grow our production capacity because we were running very short before the pandemic. We have hired 150 people since then. The new site is about 20,000 square meters just for the production site. In addition to that, we have also set up a logistics center which is about 18,000 square meters and 40 meters high, just to combine the production and the shipping and the warehouse at the same time. And all those investments have enabled us to grow our production capacity by almost 80%, which is very much, obviously. But as you can imagine, this investment is made for the next 20 years or more. This is a pic of the new plant. Here is the plant and the logistic warehouse. So Carlo asked me to talk a little bit more about the shade market, the European and worldwide shade market around the world, and see how it goes, and what can be said about this market lately. Those figures are the very last one we could gather. It's been difficult past 2 years to gather figures because past 2 years have been very strange years. As you know, very dynamic on our side, for all of us, I guess. That was not very much expected 3 years ago, but finally, those 2 years, 21, 22, were very good years. So figures are fairly difficult to evaluate lately, but we consider those figures probably not so far from the reality. So they are basically, those figures are the numbers of awning sold around the world based on the different distribution channel. So the first one and the biggest one is obviously the traditional market.
Cerco solo di aggiungere per chi magari non capisce l'inglese, perché questo non è tradotto. Dice Davide, questo è il numero delle tende da sole vendute su tutti i mercati, e questa è poi la visione di Sunbrella, diviso per il mercato tradizionale, che è il nostro, la grande distribuzione internet, che comunque comincia a muoversi anche in questa logica qui via internet, e l'Oreca, il classico mondo. Mais ça c'est où, David? À 1,4 million?
Ça c'est worldwide, monde entier.
Nel mondo, giusto?
Nel mondo.
Oh.
Nel mondo. This is only awning. I'm not talking about
solo tende da sole,
sunshades, pergola, or just regular fixed or retractable awning.
Tende a braccio.
So you can see that the traditional market remains from far the biggest market. What we call the grande distribuzione or DIY, do-it-yourself market is still there, not everywhere, basically in France, in Germany, somehow in Spain or in Belgium.
Dice David, la grande distribuzione rimane in qualche mercato, Germania, Francia e un po' in Spagna, giusto?
A little bit in the US too.
E forse un po' in America.
Pero this market share remain either stable or even going down.
Rimane un mercato stabile e un po' in calo.
Sì. On the other side, what's growing fast is the internet. market segment.
Crescendo velocemente le vendite via internet.
We have now around the world what we call pure players, meaning that companies that are highly specialized in selling that kind of product, in addition to the platform. And those companies are fairly active, past 5 years, even more during the pandemic, and are growing fast.
Ci sono ormai aziende specializzate nel proporre e vendere tende da sole via internet. Sono quelle, secondo David e secondo Sunbrella, quello mi piace molto perché è l'opinione di David e l'opinione di Sunbrella, quindi io non dovrei proprio sottovalutarla, sono le aziende che stanno crescendo in maniera più veloce.
So this is the pie that shows you in percentage for each market segment how much it represents. As you can see, the traditional market still makes 80% of it.
Se non altro, David, se è un buon messaggio per noi, il nostro mercato tradizionale vuol dire che rimane per noi importante, è quello dove noi lavoriamo tutti, non gli altri internet, ci possiamo arrivare, ma comunque per aziende che producono in modo tradizionale come siamo soprattutto noi, tutto di guadagnato che il mercato non sia stato stravolto al momento da altri canali distributivi.
And if we look at where those awning were sold around the world, that you can see that Europe makes a very large part of it, 70% of the worldwide market is Europe, obviously. The European market are very mature market for awning application. You can see awnings everywhere.
Questa è la divisione delle tende, come la vede Sunbrella, quindi il 70% del mercato mondiale di tende da sole in Europa. Il 15% negli Stati Uniti e il 15% nel resto del mondo. Quindi è un dato interessante sul quale ci aiuta sempre a riflettere che almeno l'Europa in questo caso rimane il mercato principale per noi, ma per tutte le aziende naturalmente.
May look for you a bit strange to see that USA is only 15% when USA is as big as Europe. The number of people living there is as large as it is in Europe. But there is no tradition of shade, of awning in the US. The building is not made for awning application, and the US people are not very much used to stay outside. There is no or very little terrace, you know, as we have in Europe, cafe. There are cafes, but they don't have terrace, or very little, except Miami, except California, but the rest of US, there's no terrace. There's no downtown city when you can rest and have a cafe under an awning in a terrace. Very little.
Quello che vuol dire, Davide, è che nonostante gli Stati Uniti siano dei mercati più popolosi del mondo, il mercato tende da sole rimane il 15%. Non c'è tradizione di tende da sole e solo alcune regioni, no? Miami, Florida, California, c'è mercato per tende a braccio. Devo dire che qui abbiamo, e ringrazio ancora Paolo Bars che ha tutta l'esperienza del mercato americano. Poi magari ci confrontiamo anche con Paolo Bars, naturalmente.
On the other side, they use a lot umbrellas.
E usano molto ombrelloni, questo è vero, e questo abbiamo anche ottimi rappresentanti qua di amici che fanno ombrelloni, quindi dico bene Alessandro, Lorenzo Crema, Scolaro, avete un mercato importante di buono, eh?
So just a few comments about the past 2-3 years we've been through. So as you could see, 2022 were 2 crazy years. As manufacturers, we went through difficult times. I can tell you that many of you were not very pleased with our level of service past 2 years. We run short of everything. Fiber, yarn, capacity when spinning, production capacity. The reason why we have invested so much past 2 years in additional production capacity because we were short, even before COVID, obviously. The price of logistics was crazy. Containers cost a lot. Shipping was crazy expensive. So it's been 2 difficult years, and take the advantage of being in front of you to apologize for the bad service we gave you past 2 years. Even though we have made more than ever, we have produced more than ever, but that was not enough. You were all in need of more than what we could do. Well, so 2 years basically were 2 good years, but 2 crazy years and 2 very difficult years. Those kind of years you don't want to live again in the future. But this is what happened. At the same time, we can see that by mid-22, about a year ago, by April last year, we could already see a kind of a downturn in the business, especially in the US, not so much in Europe, but especially in the US. The demand from the end consumer started to slow down. For one main reason is because during almost 2 years, more or less, depending on where we were, the consumer were forced to stay home, could not spend money in travels, in going to restaurants, in going to any kind of events, so stayed home. So what they did, they have invested like crazy in a home equipment. Good for us. We benefited of it. They've been buying awnings, pergolas, outdoor furniture set, furniture, indoor furniture, whatever. They've been spending a hell of money in the home equipment. Good for us. The bad news of it is that when all the restrictions in terms of travels, in terms of capacity to go to restaurants and so were banned, then all of us, all consumers had one single thing in mind is go out, see friends, go travels, and go to restaurants and go and spend money anything where except in their home equipment. So the business started to slow down in 2022 by April, May in the US, and we could see that most of the distributors, manufacturers, retailers has a hell of stock in their inventory because in 2021 everybody ran short of everything. So everybody thought that 22 would be even better than 21. So they have ordered even more than they did in 21. But the flip side is when the demand started to slow down, everyone stayed with a lot of inventory. And this is still the case now. We can see that in most parts of the world, it is also the case in Europe. Their inventories are full at the manufacturer side, at the distributor side, at the retailer side, and we are now expecting the business to kick off again and the stock to get rid of the shelves so we can re-engage a new cycle of business. But things are more complicated this year, obviously.
Questo è interessante perché David ha messo un concetto che anch'io ho chiesto, ma cosa vuol dire? Mercati complessivamente immaturi. Cosa vuol dire?
Sì. Talking about international market, as you could see, they represent 15% globally of the total sales around the world in terms of units. Mm-hmm. And those markets, for most of them, I'm not talking about Europe, I'm not talking about US, I'm talking about Asia, Middle East, Africa, let's say Latin America, all those countries.
Quello che vuol dire Davide è in Europa sicuramente abbiamo mercati già maturi dove la tenda da sole è molto importante, ma abbiamo tanti mercati, tante aree del mondo in cui il mercato può crescere ancora, giusto David?
Sì. And those markets are not so well organized in terms of distribution, in terms of manufacturing, so they need more education from all of us.
Mercati che non sono organizzati, no. Dice, come distribuzione, hanno bisogno di più educazione, no?
Educazione in terms of we need to explain the players there why an awning is highly needed for them, why an awning is good or bad, why the fabric is good or bad.
Dobbiamo spiegare perché serve una tenda da sole, perché è bello una tenda da sole, perché è importante avere una tenda da sole e non un altro prodotto, cose che per noi sono normali, magari in qualche altro paese del mondo non sono proprio normali.
Sì, sì. So this is a long-term process, a long-term duty. Many of those markets are also unstable, politically speaking or economically speaking. Some of you probably travels to Latin America, for instance. If you go to Argentina lately, with an inflation rate of 100%, things are tough.
Naturalmente poi le condizioni del mercato chiaramente condizionano la vendita da solo dicendo David, tipo i mercati dell'Argentina dove l'inflazione è il 100%, hanno ben altre cose in testa che la tenda da sole naturalmente. Quindi è un mercato immaturo ma non facilmente dove si può...
No. But at the same time, there is a great potential for all of those markets. So we need to be consistent. It's not because 1 year is not doing good that it's not going to be good the year after.
Sì, dice, magari non va bene quest'anno, fra questi 5 anni, magari fra 5 anni va bene. Quindi bisogna presidiare tutti questi mercati. Vabbè, un buon augurio, David.
Sì. And the other good thing of it is, if you look at Asia, for instance, Asia was probably the very last countries that have lifted all the restrictions, the travel restrictions. If you look at Thailand, at Indonesia, Singapore, at Japan, until last October you could not travel or very hardly travel to those markets, to those countries.
Questa è un'altra riflessione interessante di David, perché dice ci sono mercati ancora dove l'Asia è un mercato che è uscita per ultimo dalla restrizione della pandemia e ancora in ottobre in Giappone non si poteva viaggiare.
But now it's open and the business is back.
E in questo momento i mercati sono aperti e improvvisamente il lavoro è esploso.
The domestic market is doing very good, as we did on our side a year and a half ago. So they are almost 18 months behind us.
Quello che vuol dire Davide è che i mercati asiatici sono in questo momento dove forse noi eravamo l'anno scorso in luglio 2022. Hanno un anno, 18 mesi di ritardo, per cui per aziende globali come Sunbrella, per esempio, come Sauleda, come Serge Ferrari, probabilmente avranno un calo, forse, come vediamo in Europa, ma hanno mercati che porteranno sviluppo in questo momento, in questi mesi.
And on our side, those markets are very much driven by the tourism. As you can imagine, if you think about Thailand, Indonesia, and, Malaysia, Vietnam, tourism business is a huge part of their revenue. So the hospitality market is now picking up again. Last 3 years, they could not do anything. Everything was closed. Now all those projects are back on track and the demand is there. So this is
chiaramente
positive.
sono tutti paesi poi dove il turismo è in forte sviluppo, comunque la presenza dei flussi turistici è importante, per cui sono mercati in cui sicuramente sono più attivi del nostro. Ecco, questo è il messaggio di David.
Sì. One more thing I didn't mention is the pergola market is very low. Is not developed in those markets compared to Europe. Again, when in Europe now the pergola business is a huge market, becoming almost maybe not mature but very well known and a true market segment. It's not the case still for most of those markets. So there is again a huge potential of growth.
Questo è il discorso di David, chiaramente, ma lo sentiamo anche noi, il mercato della pergola è un mercato tipicamente italiano, vorrei dire, poi europeo, molto meno extraeuropeo, quindi anche lì potenziale di sviluppo per tutti importante.
And that's about it.
Grazie David. Non so se avete qualche domanda per Jérémy Partouche, Giuseppe Sauleda o David Corfmat, avete qualche domanda per caso?